episode of Late Night Riders, listen in as we speak with Alexa Lee, who has taken her horse from slaughter to its success.
Three-time USEF Horse of the Year in 2018, 19, and 20. She has worked really hard for these accomplishments. Listen in.
I started when I was 4 years old, and my dad said it literally was the worst decision of his life. And he took me to a dude ranch, and I was terrified of the horses. And by the end, I was like, I'm basically the horse whisperer because I could feed them out of my hand. And I was like, basically this, like, I can talk to every horse. And I was 4 years old. And then after that, my mom actually was she did riding too when she was younger, but she had a redheaded mare named Ginger. If that doesn't tell you enough, then there's a reason why she stopped. But she took me to my first horseback riding lessons too, and I just fell in love. And my parents were like, "Oh, she's gonna get out of it. Like she'll fall and hurt herself, or something will happen." I was like, yeah, right.
Yeah.
And my dad has literally said, like, I would rather you be on drugs.
Oh, I love it.
I'm like, this is wonderful. Like, don't worry about it. And so from there, I never actually owned my own horse. I actually always leased, and I would like work off certain things. Like I would work around just to like, cause I would pay for my own lease. Cause I was always like, well, if I pay for it, technically it's mine basically, like not my parents. So I did a lot of that. I would do like barn work around the barn to get like extra lessons and so forth. And then I did change barns and went to a couple of different ones just to try a few different things. And I went to VHSA finals one year, as I always did hunters, which is like, you know, the fancy, like, you know, how pretty is your horse? Like, what are you wearing? Like, is your horse like dead quiet to the world and basically dead? And I loved it, but then when I got out of the arena one time, I heard a girl like literally screaming and throwing down the reins saying, I hate this horse, I want a new one, and stormed off. And she had gotten fourth out of like 56 people. And I was like, I'm done. I'm out of here.
Yeah. Yep.
I was like, I'll take her horse if no one else wants it. Is he up for like adoption? Because I mean, he got fourth. Like, that's amazing.
Right.
And so I kind of went a little bit more towards the jumpers because it kind of fit my personality, and I really liked what I was doing with all that. And I really enjoyed, you know, working with like speed, but it's also a lot with like your accuracy and also like your position and so forth, because I always would have to explain to my dad, I'm like, no, I don't have to look like super like beautifully perfect. My horse doesn't have to be, you know, conformationally perfect or like look like the best thing ever, because if we go in there, we don't hit any rails, we don't have time faults or refusals, you're great. And as long as you're like not speeding around like a maniac either, you're pretty good. So I got into that. And then when I went to college, that's actually where I met Mandy. I was going to ride on the Virginia Tech horseback riding team, but it was very cliquish for me, and I'm really not into that kind of stuff. And I really like supporting other people and like anyone who's new or different or like wants to learn and like wants to actually like be a part. I think that everyone should always, you know, include them into it, because even when I was younger, like I was bullied with horses all the time. I mean, all over, you know how kids are, like they would do stuff on Facebook. They were they just weren't nice. And so I really wanted to kind of step away from that and just do my own thing. And I mean, thankfully with me, it motivated me more than anything to, in the sense, prove them wrong. But it also kind of like helped drive my competitiveness. Like I'm very competitive, which is good and bad. But then from that, I ended up leasing a horse for my graduation present and brought her down to Virginia Tech, and her name was Rose. And that's how I met Mandy, because Mandy was managing the barn there. And then from there, I bought that horse myself. After I graduated, I bought her, took her with my own money, moved to Ohio, of all places. Lord.
Yes.
Like, it's terrible snowing here. And
we're here.
We're
to
here.
come. Yes, we are in Ohio.
Oh,
we're here.
Oh, you are? I didn't realize you were in Ohio.
Yeah, Northwest Ohio. We're in Swanton.
kind of near Toledo.
What?
Yeah.
I'm going up to Chagrin this weekend.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Right over. Yep. Right near. Kind of over to the east. Yep. Mm-hmm.
What? That's nuts. I'm going for the horse show this weekend. That's funny. Very small world.
So
Yeah.
cute.
Yeah.
And I just want to say too that Mandy is one of our account managers, one of our people in our office too that work with sales, and you know each other, so everybody knows who Mandy is.
Oh, yeah. Sorry
Yes,
about that.
that's okay. No, that's all right. No, go ahead.
And so when I came to Ohio, with Rose, I went to a couple different barns, and obviously, as you know, the Ohio weather is horrible. So if you don't have an indoor,
Yes.
you're just kind of like screwed for the entire season.
That's
So
right.
Yeah.
I ended up finding a farm, and when I went there, the lady wanted someone to help her with selling a mare named Satin. And she wanted someone to help her with videos and so forth. And I was like, well, I'm happy to ride her, and you can just take a video of her and we can just sell her. Well, I rode her once, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love this horse so much. And she told me that she had someone coming up that weekend to possibly try her and buy her. And I was like, okay, well, you know, I really shouldn't get another horse. Like, let me make a good decision in my life for once. Clearly I did not. And so
Aw.
then I rode her a second time, and I was like, oh my gosh, I just love this horse. There was just something about her that I loved so much. I don't know what it was. I just remember riding her, and it wasn't even her jumping. It was on the flat. Because I remember like going around in a circle. I'm like, she is so willing and so badly wants to please, like
Aw.
so badly wants to be like,
Aw.
you're told like you're a good girl and so forth. So
Aw.
I just saw like her heart there, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay. I'm like, well, can you give me till Saturday? Or no, I was like, can you give me the weekend and I'll let you know? She was like, yeah, but if someone comes on Saturday and they want her, then kind of shit out of luck. And I was like, oh, okay. And I continued to ride, and I'm like, all right, well, give me till like Saturday morning. Cause I was like, maybe I should talk to someone about this instead of making such a rash decision.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, like I'll give you then. And I keep riding, and I untack her, and I'm like, all right, can you give me till Friday for
Aw.
sure. And she's like, that's fine. And I put her away, and I'm like, screwed. I'm like, just give me the papers. I'm going to buy her. And she's like, okay.
Aw.
Oh God, what did I just do? I'm like, oh no, I made such an adult decision. Yeah, so it was actually, I mean, it was really nice. And I kind of heard a little bit about her story there.
Now, can I
from
say
the
this
lady.
to Alexis really quick, just to say,
Yeah.
you have one of the, I wish I could say heartfelt, one of the most heartfelt messages to talk to people about Little Satin. And this is so honorable. And I think it's really special that people are going to hear this story. And I'm sure a lot of people will really relate to this. This means an awfully lot. It does. And so we're so glad that you would share this. This is a big story here. So everybody listen up. So you go right ahead.
Well, it is. It's a hard story for sure. And, you know, like seeing like where she is now and where she came from. I mean, it does take a toll at times on me, like where I'm like I like, wow, I want to tear up, or I'm just like,
That's
you're
right.
just such
Yeah,
an amazing
that's
horse,
right.
you know? So she was a racehorse. She was an off the track. She is an off the track thoroughbred. And she ended her career because she was a bleeder, which means like when she races so hard, like, you know, sometimes when you guys run so hard, you kind of feel like that blood
Right.
taste in your throat.
Mhm.
She was one of those, but she was amazing. I mean, I have a couple of her race videos, and she was first the entire time, and her race name was Queen Satin, which really does fit her like to a T.
Aw.
To a T, it fits her.
Aw.
So after that, she was taken to a not so great training facility. They're not very well known in that sense. And no one would buy her. Like I kind of like looked up on her page, like she was up there for months and months.
Wow.
Like no one picked her up. Finally, someone did in Michigan, and this was in 2016. And she was passed around between two barns for 6 months. So she was bought in June of 2016, and it had been around a 6-month period, was
Wow.
passed around, and then ended up at Sugar Creek Auction, which is actually a slaughter auction in Ohio.
Mm-mm.
I actually have photos of her too at that auction with like the
You.
stamp on her
Oh,
butt and everything.
so sad.
And so when she was being run through the little like corral thing that they had, they
Yeah.
actually had like whips like whacking her because she didn't want to run through. And when she was doing that, she would rear up on the stands and like freak out because of, you know, they're all whipping her. And then after that happens, they shove her in like a 12 by 12 stall with like 30 other horses. I mean, like these horses literally, you can't get them out because
They're
they're
packed.
just
Yeah.
shoved in there. And I'm like, you know, she's around all these diseases and like all this sickening stuff. And then a woman did buy her. And I was thankful and that was the woman that I ended up buying her from, this barn. But it wasn't a great fit between them. I will say that the woman would take a crop at times and go in the stall and like whack Satin in the face. And like Satin would just spin around the stall like scared, like just
Poor
whack, whack,
horse.
whack, because Satin is a weaver and
Aw.
I guess it would annoy her at times. She also rode her in a Kimberwick, which is a really harsh gag bit, and a chain and a figure 8 and double reins. And so that was just so much
Bridled
like,
up, so made
everything in her
severe. Yeah.
And right now she's in a happy mouth, or actually even something even nicer. I forgot what it was called, but it's a really good bit that helps them salivate and is very like, it's there if I need it. Like say I'm going towards a jump and she just gets really strong. I'm like, hey, we're coming back.
Yeah.
But I would rather, I'm always like less is more for me with her. So the woman had also one time, Satin had an issue, and sorry, that's my dog stretching. I'm really sorry.
Okay. No, it's okay. It's all right.
We're all
love them all.
family.
We're
It's
animal-
okay.
Yeah, we're all the animal people, and it's so sweet. Little downward dog there.
Come here, Otis. Come here, baby. So she ended up one time getting really mad at Satin and actually ended up taking her outside. It was really hot out too. And Satin's like a pretty like lighter bay horse. She ran her so hard that she came back in, when I mean dripping sweat off her stomach. It was like on the ground dripping, and she handed me the lead rope and she goes, "You better walk her, she's gonna colic." And I just remember that so specifically because I was sitting there like, what the heck? And anytime I would try to touch that horse's face or pet her or anything, she would just throw her head up in fear, like I was about to hit her. And she was hit a lot. I'm not sure if when she was hit, when it broke her bone right here.
Oh my gosh.
But when my vet looked at her and he was like, yeah, she's got a broken bone there. And that's usually from being hit pretty hard to break that small bone that's right there. You know, she was yanked around in her mouth too, especially even with that gag bit on. She had been flipped over backwards too, like on purpose. She had gone through a lot. And she was pretty like, she was not super confident in herself. I mean, she would try. When I mean this horse would try for me, she would try so hard. Everything she would do is she would like do it for me. She would just jump and jump, even if she was like, I'm not sure. And our first big like kind of competition is we went to the Thoroughbred Incentive Program. It's the TJC TIP like championships that's held in Kentucky. And there was a $5,000 classic that was going on there. And there were 30 plus horses. It was 1 a.m. in the morning. I'm like, I'm so tired. I am ready to be done with this. And it was our first like really big show. And I remember saying this to her. I'm like, look, we can do this. Even if you don't win, I still love you so much. And I just whispered it. And I was like, I'm not going to be like some like sappy story. Like, oh, this is nothing. And she won the whole thing.
There you go.
I was like,
right there. There's the story. There you have it.
I was like, what? I'm like, oh my gosh. And even then though, like she wasn't built up muscle wise. She wasn't like, she was still pretty nervous then. Like she wasn't how she is now. Like she looks pretty scrawny, like compared to how she is now. And so after that, I was just like, this horse is something else. And I didn't think much because a lot of people are like, well, thoroughbreds, they can't really jump higher than 3 foot or this and that, because just, you know, one, other racing career really can limit them with a lot of things, and two, a lot of them just kind of max out at that height. So I don't know, there was something about Satin. She loves to jump. I mean, loves it. Like when we're in the arena and we're doing dressage, she gets like ADD and it's like, what's going on? We're jumping. She's more focused than I am. She's like, okay, next jump. Okay, what's happening? Okay, I got this. I'm like, okay. Yeah, and it's actually really sweet.
What a sweet
But timeline on that, from you said 2016 when she was purchased or she was off the track, or I mean like the timeline from that to 2018,
the wins.
2017 actually. So she was bought end of 2016. by the lady, and I bought her in April of 2017.
Of 2017, and then when you get to 2018 is what I guess I'm
The
leading up
wins
to. The
all
win, you
along.
get all these wins,
Oh
but
my
then in
goodness.
2018, I didn't realize
Yeah,
how
you
short
go
this
ahead.
was.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
So in
go ahead.
2018,
You tell the story. Yeah.
Oh no, it's totally fine. So 2017 was when we actually won the $5,000 classic.
mm-hmm.
And then we started going off and ended up doing a lot of the thoroughbred jumpers, and which is a specific class, obviously, for thoroughbreds only, and it's usually a meter, which is about 3'3" when you're calculating that out for
Okay.
the jumpers. And she ended up being horse of the year in 2018, and
Yeah.
she was horse of the year in 2019,
Oh wow.
and she's horse of the year of 2020.
Oh, you're kidding.
Oh, good for
Wow.
her. Oh,
No,
what
and
a
she
story.
was also, she placed 6th place out of over 200 horses
Oh my
in the
gosh.
high adult jumpers, which is actually 3'7" now.
Oh,
She was in the high adult
wow.
jumpers. We moved up. And I just found out
my.
yesterday, actually, in the 2020 USSHJA Cup, I believe it is, or Stirrup Cup, she placed 3rd.
Wow.
out of the high
wow.
adult jumpers.
Congratulations.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Wow.
And I mean, this
and
mare
who would
is
have
just,
thought? Who would have
Right?
thought?
who would have thought, like,
And-
came from slaughter, came all the way out here. And I mean, it took me a while though to get her trust. Like, it really did. And I mean, it took time to even like get her to, let you pet her face and everything. I mean, she would never do it. Now she throws her head in my chest and like scratches
Oh,
on me. I'm
she
like, get off.
knows.
You're
Yeah.
not a scratch. Like,
Yeah.
pushes me over.
Oh,
Like, I just love her so much. And so then also on that, like, just trusting me that I'll always put her in the right situation, and I'm not going to like put her in a bad situation ever. Like,
overdo
even
her.
if
Yeah. Yep.
even if like we went to a horse show or to actually I remember this specifically too, is when our first horse show with the other, when she was at that other lady's barn before I bought her, she had to beat her onto a trailer, and because she wouldn't get on. Literally now I can walk that horse straight on, let her go, turn around and put up her butt bar. She'll stand there the entire time. She will not move, not try to back up, nothing. And and it's just the small things, I guess, like you're just spending time with them, like talking to them. Like, I feed her way too many treats.
It's
She
okay.
gets like all the massages and all the care that she needs, that I want her to have, and so forth. Like, I feed her Buckeye feed and unlimited hay, because I'm a very big proponent of unlimited hay, because it helps with their gut and it helps prevent ulcers and so forth. So from there, we had gone to different couple of trainers, but nothing really fit with us until I met Angela Moore, who's my current trainer. She's a 100 jumper trainer. She did Grand Prix. She's owns her business is Steelaway Farm, and she really kind of turned it around for us. She really kind of got me thinking about the actual dynamics if I wanted to go higher, like the small things, the having your horse rock back, using its hind, getting underneath itself if it needs to, so it can push up and over the jump ladder that's be flat. So she really taught me a lot of the biomechanics and the differences that I'm going to need. And it got my eye better. It got my upper body better. It got both of us a lot stronger and a lot more confident in each other. And it's actually kind of funny because Satin is one of the few horses I've ever seen. There's a new jump in the arena. She could care less. We had one at Brave Horse. It was that palm tree looking jump.
Yeah.
Every horse that went in there was like, what is that?
Stairs. Yeah.
Spooking, stopping. And I was like, all right, like, we'll see how this goes. Satin goes in, didn't even care, hopped right over. And I was like,
What a
I was like,
sweetheart.
first horse that got over it.
What a sweetheart. So I have to ask you, there are horses that come across your path when you ride as much as you do. And sometimes there's that one special horse that just connects so tight to your heart horse. And also, they know you zig and zag together, right? You know exactly what that one's thinking, and that one knows what you're thinking. And it's the greatest teamwork, team effort. And it's something that I don't know if people have never had that happen. It's wonderful to try to find that horse that you can connect with in that way. It sounds like Satin is that horse for you.
It is.
And
She really
you
is.
love
And I
her
mean,
so
like,
much.
it wasn't easy. I mean, it wasn't like, oh yeah, I just like did this. There was a lot of times I was like, I'm just going to give up. I'm so tired of this. Like, what if she can't do this? What if I can't do this? What if, like, there's a lot of what ifs, so,
Right.
but she kind of always like brought it back for me in that sense. Like she always was like, no, we can do it. No, we know we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was
That
pretty
great
awesome. I mean,
relationship. Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
it was amazing for that. And you know, she's pretty picky though. I will say that, like with like she won't she I can never go anywhere if I have a vet, farrier, dentist, massage therapist appointment with her, because I'm not kidding you. The vet cannot flex her. I have to
Aw.
flex her, or she
Oh,
tries to kick
wow.
the vet.
Oh, wow.
The dentist, even sedated, like if she was in the sling that holds up
Yeah.
her neck,
Mhm.
she shakes her head the whole time, and I have to put her on my shoulder, and then she's like,
Mm.
"I'm fine." I'm like,
God
I hate
love
you.
her.
She is very
She loves
connected.
you. She loves you. And that's a
Oh,
really,
yeah.
really special thing. And, you know, you hold each other up, even in those times, like you said, where, you know, you had to work with her. You know, she didn't want her head touched, things like that, though. You figure out how to do it. And that's such a wonderful connection when you can finally do that with your horse and have them come
Yeah.
into your,
Mm-hmm.
you know, your hands, and then in your hands when you're riding, you know, is unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
So that's,
And there was
that's
times that
exciting.
like she still is like, "Whoa, what's gonna happen?" Like when new people ride her, there's someone new that's around her or something. Like she's like, "Who is this? Like,
Right.
can we trust them? Like, am I gonna trust
Yeah.
you to trust them?" And so forth. And so she there's been a lot of those things that, you know, she ends up like, do I not? But then like when I'm there and I'm like, it's okay. Like I think what I really like about myself in that sense, not to be like that person that's like, I'm great, but I like that I don't react when they react so much. Like if they freak out, I'm not gonna freak out too. I'm just kind of like, it's not that big a deal. Get over
Right.
it. And they see that I don't react, and they're like,
Right.
oh, that's awesome.
You're the
And,
leader. Yep.
she's actually a very jealous horse, because I actually do ponies a lot. Like I train them and I to resell them
So
for
cute.
kids.
How sweet.
And if I ride them before I ride her, she is a snot. Like she is like,
She knows.
excuse me.
She knows.
Oh, she knows.
Oh,
Like she's
yeah.
like, how dare you? And I'm like, oh no. So it's like I have to like, you know, like, because she'll see it too. She's like, I see you bringing it in. What do you think you're doing? Like she has like this like neck thing that goes on. She's like,
Me? Like,
That's so
Yeah.
cute.
Yeah.
She can
and then
communicate
she
with
won't
you.
let me catch her. And she won't let me
Oh
catch her.
my
She's like, bye. I'm like,
boy, she
I'm
is
gonna
a
kill you.
she is a good girlfriend. She really is.
Yeah.
She's a loyal girlfriend. I think she wants your
she
full
really
attention.
is. And she's also so this year we ended up going to a really big FEI show, which is like big, like Olympic, like really top riders go there. It's called Split Rock.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you've heard of it before, but it's a very like one of the top rated shows and so forth. It was in
Nice.
Columbus, and we were the only thoroughbred in our class.
Wow.
Only one out of like 30 something people and 20 something. She got, and this is against professionals, like top riders, you know, people come from all over, from Israel they came from
Wow.
Germany, all over. And she ended up getting second and third in her
Oh
title.
my
So
gosh.
Awesome.
yeah.
Oh, that is so.
Amazing.
You know,
It was incredible.
I
Like,
love
she
your
beat-
story. I just love your story, and you are so cute because you just are so open about everything. And some people just they're very, you know, you're extremely professional, and you've worked so hard. You can tell. But I just love your openness and your real, you know, how real you are about all of it, and that's
Oh,
just
thank
so
you.
sweet. No wonder she loves you. You know, so.
Right? I'm like, here, just have all these treats and you'll be great. And she loves my dogs too, which is actually really funny. She's really good with them. And
sweet.
but I will say she's a princess. Like she hates trail rides. Like she's like, absolutely
Oh.
not.
Oh,
God.
wow.
And I'm like,
Oh.
we're literally walking down the driveway, and she's like, nope, too much. We can't do this. I'm like,
Oh my
this is gonna kill me.
goodness, that's
so
really.
Oh, yeah.
funny.
She's
She has
all
a
business.
personality.
She's very much
Oh,
business.
she so is, and
Yeah.
she's so game for like anything but trail rides. Like she's
I
like,
think
I'm
that-
I'm too good for this.
That's
And
so cool. I love it. So
sorry.
cute.
I
No,
think
and
the
so then-
coolest part of this whole thing is that you have this horse who did not have a voice and
Yes.
almost was not
Right.
here. And now this horse has a bigger voice and can communicate with you
Yeah.
and tell you what she feels without having to say one word. And I think this is pretty cool that you have
it
that.
was meant to be
Yeah.
for the two of you
Yeah.
to
Oh.
be together because she could
Yeah.
not be here, but she is here with you. And
Yeah.
what a story! What a wonderful
Oh,
story!
she has taught me so much. And like, because actually, when the woman was buying her, she was bidding against a kill buyer.
Hmm.
So she could have gone elsewhere, but
Oh
she has
my.
taught me so much, that horse. I mean, she has taught me about patience, about, just not even just riding, but just like understanding like, different horse cues and understanding like the proper care for horses too. Like, I mean, when you're younger, you really don't know all about the proper
Yeah.
care. You're like, oh, I want to jump, I want to ride,
Yeah.
but like she really taught me about like, because she's so needy. Really, like I cannot tell you, like if she literally goes to a new place, she's like, I'm not gonna touch my grain. I'm like my whole face is just like,
Excuse me.
seriously. I'm like, your ulcer meds are in there, everything. And she's like, no, I'm not. I'm like, okay. And I poured molasses and apple juice,
Oh.
so she eats it. And
Oh.
she's like, I will nibble on it. I'm like,
Oh my goodness.
I'm this close. I'm like, when I get my next horse, I swear to God, it better eat
Yeah.
everything. I never will have
Well,
to.
she
make
has so
her
much
find
personality, so
Yeah.
much personality. I mean, she really communicates with you.
Oh,
It's
she
okay.
really does. And I like look
Oh.
at her and I'm like, you're giving me ulcers. I'll eat your grain because right now I have them. Like, this is terrible. And
So-
she's like, okay.
That's so funny. So what did your training process look like in the beginning, and what tips would you have for, somebody who
question.
kind of went through or is going through the same thing that you went through?
So I guess the training steps is like, my biggest thing was getting a connection with her. So like anytime we would tack, like do everything yourself sort of thing. Like,
Yeah.
don't have someone else tack up your horse. Don't have
Yeah.
someone else, do everything and just for you to hop on it. You want to have that bond. I've worked with ponies too that have a similar issue. Like they've come
Yeah.
from, just
Yeah.
homes that weren't the best.
Right.
And like when you actually have that bond and you spend that time with them and you like gain that confidence for them, it's a lot easier. Sorry, my dog is playing with a sock. Hey.
This is fine.
But so that going back to what we were saying was that I guess my biggest thing was that I learned about care too, like proper nutrition, proper feed. Like as I said, I feed Buckeye feed, and it has changed her completely. Like it has filled her out in the proper spots, the proper areas, like given her the right kind of nutrition that she needs. And so all those things have like really helped out. And then giving her the proper hay that she needs, and the proper, just the proper care. Like I want my horses out as much as they can. So many people keep them in. I'm like, I don't care. Turn her out. Like
Right.
she can be a horse. Let her be a
Right.
horse.
Right.
Mhm.
I
And,
agree with you. Right.
Like those might not think of training techniques, but it is like keeping a horse out. Like it changes who they are. Like you don't like to be cooped up in your bed all day
Right.
unless you're a weirdo, but that's fine. But you don't want to be like sitting in your bed like 24/7, not able to go out,
Right.
just sitting there eating, whatever. And so, I really wanted her to experience at least a really happy life. And I'm
Yeah.
fine if she doesn't want to jump anymore. If she doesn't want to jump, I have no issue. Like if
So
we're just going to do
sweet.
flat work or whatever, and
Aw.
clearly not trail ride, we're going to do that. But I never, when I was riding and training with her, I never had like an expectation that she was going to be above and beyond everything. I just had an expectation, like a small goal, like we're going to do this today. And then when we get to it, it's going to be great. Like whether it was learning how to counter canter, whether it was bending, or, when I first got to Angela Moore, it was amazing actually, just to see the progress. She and I had talked about this the other day. We couldn't counter bend, which is like when your horse is like, bending to the outside instead of the inside. At the canter, like we just, it was really hard for her because she didn't have the right muscles. Now she does it like a pro. She's like, this is easy. Like next thing, we're working on a lot of dressage. Like Angela has taught us a lot about leg yields and haunches in and shoulders in, and just like what it does to like help with our horses and transfer that over into jumping. And yes, Angela is a hunter jumper trainer. I've also had dressage trainers. One is Nancy Notting. She's actually an FEI dressage trainer, and she helped me a lot with stretching the horse. Let her stretch. Let them like stretch out. They don't always have to be so like, ready to
Tucked
work.
in.
Let them relax and stretch out and, accept the bit and work from like the hind to the front. That was her big thing, is always hind to the front. Because you see all these horses that are so heavy in the front. And you're like, no, you want them working. And, I will say most of our stuff, we just do flat work. We barely jump ever. I mean,
awesome.
we do like little like 2-foot stuff, like if we're doing like cavalettis or something,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we don't need to do that. And the biggest advice I can say for someone is spend time with your horse. Like
Yeah.
that's what they want. They're animals and they like that connectivity with someone. And if you can make that bond with them, they'll give you so much. They'll give you everything, especially a mare. I mean, hey, Satin does give me a lot. And like, she will tell me if I don't ride her for a day, good luck. I'm gonna die the next day, basically. Like, oh my gosh, that horse will never retire. I swear to God. I'll be like, she'll be like 30, like, let's go.
She keeps you young. So you said that you've ridden lots of horses. You leased horses for a long time. If there's somebody who doesn't have that heart horse, can you still connect with a horse, do you think, in that way? Or do you feel like you have to have that heart horse?
No, you can connect in them. When I leased a horse and everything, like, you know, and even like just going to the barn or every day and just spending time with that horse, they know who you are. They end up like realizing this is you. Like, you treat them the right way, they're like, we know who this is. Because not everyone's going to do that. Not everyone is going to just go out of their way and give them extra treats or, you know, spend some extra time brushing them or spend some extra time loving on them. They'll know it's you, and like, they'll know your smell. They'll know it by your voice. They'll know it by just everything, your touch. Like, they're very sensitive animals. It's kind of like how your dogs are. You know, your dogs can get excited to see someone else. Yeah. But when they see you, it's like their whole world is like better. And I'm like, you're welcome. So, crappers.
Because I think sometimes people have that idea, or even maybe young children have that idea that you have to have this one specific horse, you know, and you're saying you can just do it with any. I mean, you've leased so many, you've trained so many. Have you ever found that there's a horse that, is there times when you just feel like we do not connect? This is not a connection for us.
There has been at times, like with some ponies, I know if I spent more time with them, there would be, but I feel like I'm also too tall at times for them. So it's harder to get that connection. Like, on the ground we'll have it, but not under saddle because I'm just too big for them. So I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna crush you. But there's been a couple ponies I've had some really good connections with. There was one I worked with recently, had a lot of issues like bucking and biting and kicking and so forth, and he's amazing now. Like, completely different ponies.
Ponies are so funny. They just
are.
crack me up. Aren't they
them.
so cute? They are. How do you explain it? I mean, ponies are so different from horses, but they're just little horses. But their personalities are so big, aren't they? They're little, but their personalities are huge.
And they're just they sometimes have the little man syndrome. And you know, I've actually started working with my other dressage trainer, Parvati Woods, and she's awesome. And she has helped me out actually a lot already. And a lot of the stuff I take over from what I learned with Satins, I bring that to my ponies. And that's what makes them so good. And I do stupid stuff. Like, don't ever do this at home, but I ride backwards at times. Don't ever do that. Yeah. I literally will do yoga on the ponies. Again, don't do that. And I will like crawl underneath them. I'll just do stupid stuff that, like, you know, kids will do so that they become kids safe. And they're, you know, experiencing all different things. And, you know, I love what I did with Satin, and I wanted to bring that over to some other ponies that I could help with, whether it's bringing up their confidence, making them, you know, teaching them new things again. Like, you know, I had my little part ponies. My name was Oliver, and he's in a great home right now. He actually just got reserve champion at the World Equestrian Center down in Ocala.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he is he was one that I worked with a lot too, and he had personality. Like, he loved Satin too, but he was a little snot. Like, he would run around the field like, I'm gonna bother you, and she's like, I'm going to kill you. Like, that's it. And he's like, but I love you, and she's like, get away from me. He's like, nope. He was that like annoying like little cousin that never left you alone, no matter how many times you go away. Yeah, that was
And
him.
I think
But he was perfect.
turning those ponies out for these little children. I've got some children that I watch on, like, you know, Instagram and things like that. It's just amazing when those little children, you know, bond with that pony. Oh my goodness. And they're the cutest things. I watch several that are just so bound together, and they're so cute. The little ponies just carry them, and they just bounce around, you know, because little ponies are so short. They're little, you know, sometimes their little strides are so short. Those little kids hang on and just, they ride and play. They ride and play together at the same time with those ponies. They just love them. They fall in love with it. It's like they're buddies, they're friends. But that's what we do too as we get older. You know, we do that. I had a question for you. How long did it take you and how did you work with Satin to let her, so that you could touch her face, so she would let you touch her face? How did you do that? How long did that take to gain trust? I know.
I'm like, I'm going to love you and force you, and so you're going to start to learn to love me.
I'm going to love you and force you.
I literally would like grab her and be like, love me. And she was like, oh my God, this lady is insane. Like, just love me. I love you. And she was like, so the more like I would do it, the more she would realize like this is actually not that bad. And she loves scratching her face. Okay. And so I would just let her scratch and like let her like, and like I wouldn't rush. Like I don't rush up and just like grab my arms around her. Like I love you. Like it's very like peaceful. Like when she like last night when I saw her and I wrote her, she was very at peace with everything. And you know, she was very just kind of quiet, and I was like, let's just like, you know, we'll have a moment together. And like she just puts her head into me, and like after my dressage trainer wrote her, it was actually really funny when this happened. I was sitting down on the mounting block, and she just comes over and like puts her head in my lap and basically tries to climb into my lap. And I'm like, get off.
Get off. Love her.
Now.
Oh, you are such a sweet person, though. She can tell. She knows how sweet you are.
Yeah, and I'll do
it.
anything for her. I mean, this year, I could not believe she did this. We went to the Take Two Thoroughbred, which is another big show, and it was a $20,000 classic. And she won the whole thing.
Oh my girl.
Wow.
I was like, I actually started crying. I was full blown crying there. I was like, she just does so much for me. And I just love her. My kid was like, pull it together. You have a jump off. I'm like, but I love her.
And think of how many success stories could be out there, you know, for other people listening, that if they're looking for a horse and they want to go and find a horse before anything happens to it, you know, at some of those places, the extra chance that they get if somebody will just give them the time and, you know, take the time and be willing. Because she definitely is willing with you. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah. So. And, like, just to even, like, be patient and realize that if one day they're not the best, like, it's okay. You know, it's not like you have to sell them the next day because they're that bad. It's that they're an animal. They're going to have good days just like you do, and they're going to have bad days. You know, you should be thankful that they even let you handle them or even, like, let you ride them. Because if they didn't want you on them, trust me, they'll get you off.
That's right. That's right.
Like, they will literally get you off in a heartbeat. So, you know, I'm even thankful for that with her. And, you know, she's just, she's something else. I mean, my whole like ribbon, like my room is like full of ribbons. Not this one. Like this has some, but my other room is insane.
Well, so the other part of your story that I love is that, you know, when you're talking about taking care of her and all these ribbons that you have, this costs a lot of money to do what you're doing. And the advice that your dad gave you never gave up. You did this. So the advice that your dad gave you to get a horse was...
No.
I'm not paying for it, and basically, you're on your own. That was literally what he said. He was like, you better find a good job that will help you afford a horse because they're expensive and you have an expensive lifestyle. So that was one of the reasons I became an electrical engineer, but at the same time, I like math and science in that sense. And I do love what I do. I'm a power system engineer for ABB, and I design and build power systems. And so, yeah, it does help out with my lifestyle of
so cute. So cute.
But you've always worked towards things. You're not just sitting back just waiting for somebody to hand it to you, or like you said, to, you know, you're bonding with them. You're bettering yourself so that you can take care of them better. And I think there's, you know, such a huge lesson to be learned from that.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, and I think it's something that kids have to learn too. Like I love, like whenever I hear kids be like, you know, I want to be a horse trainer, a horse this, horse that. I thought the same thing, and then I realized how much of a pain it is to deal with all sorts of horses and different people and clients and everything. I mean, it is exhausting, and I have talked to a lot of my friends who are trainers and vets. Even they're like, it's not as glorified as it seems to be. It really isn't. I mean, it's a lot of hard work, a lot of time, a lot of hours, a lot of no sleep, a lot of, you know, breaking even basically, like to just take care of the horse farm. I mean, it's not this glorified, you know, job in that sense. It's a lot of hard work, a lot of, you know, having to find new helpers or new people to do stalls or feed the horses and trust them and so forth, and find the right horses for the lesson program or whatever it is. And it's like, I love hearing kids like, you know, say like, this is what they want. And because I said the same thing, I'm like, I'm going to be a horse trainer. And I like literally saw how horrible it was. And I'm like, no, not that it was horrible to be a horse trainer at all. It's like, for what I was looking for. I mean, it's a lot of work, especially, you know, unfortunately, the sad part is if you don't come from money, it's very hard. It's very hard to kind of set something up to like be a trainer, to, you know, have your own lesson program and, you know, and so forth, especially if you want it to be big and like have everyone. It's very hard, especially if you're going to do it on your own. And like I said, you don't come from money, you don't have a record, whatever it is. And so a lot of the times, you know, a lot of the parents have asked me to have to talk to their kids, like, please tell them like how expensive horses are. And I'm like, they're like, well, you know, we try to budget. I'm like, you can't budget for a horse. Just put away $1,000 like every other week, and that's basically what you're going to be spending the rest of your life. Like that's everything. Like $1,000 every single week. You'll be realizing that you'll still have nothing in the bank after that. So it's fine. But yeah, I just, you know, I talk to some of their kids at times, telling them like, hey, you know, this is good that you're thinking this, but if you want to be able to afford and do shows and do what you want to do, like you're going to have a career that you can fall back on too. Like horses is not a consistent career. It's not something that, you know, you can always make money. There's always going to be issues, whether it's COVID, you know, tons of barns had to shut down because of COVID.
True.
Yes.
Tons of barns lost a bunch of clients, everything. It's not consistent. It's not something that's solid that you know that you'll have, you know, 6 months later, a year later, you know. And so I wanted something to make sure that I could always support myself with if I was to get out of horses. Or like, yeah, what if you got out of horses one day, you're like, I am just done. You know, you want to be able to have a career to fall back on. So talking to younger kids and letting them know that horses are fun, but at the same time, you know, think about your future and your career too, so that you can have that fun.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree.
Very much so. Okay.
Well, let's take a short break, and when we come back, we'll enter Canter Banter.
This podcast is brought to you by Ram Horse Fencing and Stalls, the one-stop shop for your horse farm. Ram is family-owned and operated and has been in business for over 30 years. We welcome you to call in and speak with an expert about your next project today at 866-653-8984. Again, that's 866-653-8984.
So now we'll talk about, there's a little story that we'd like to talk to you about, you know, something that had gone on with you and your horse.
At a show when you were jumping. Something about smiling when you fall.
Okay.
So we were at the World Equestrian Center in Ohio, and we were having this killer round, like just killer. She was flying everything, and we get to our last jump, and I get over it, and I was like, we can go left. And I look left and there's a jump right there. I'm like, we can't go left. And I look right and there's like a person right there. I'm like, we can't go right. And I'm like, well, I can't go straight either. So we go whoop, whoop, whoop. And I'm like, oh no, I fell off. And while I'm falling off though, I'm screaming, I passed the timers. Because as long as you pass the timers, then you're good. Like it still counts. Like you falling does not count against you.
Okay.
And so I jump up and Sam's looking at me like, oh my gosh, I did this. And I was like, it's okay, I passed the time. Got the judges like, did you see that? And they're like, and in first place I'm like, whoa! And I'm like smiling and laughing the whole time. I'm taking my horse and running back because I still have to get out of the arena the whole time, but I'm on the other side of the arena, running back with my horse screaming, woo! I'm like laughing and smiling, and she has her ears like half back, like this is not what I signed up for. And I was like, this is great, guys. We still won the class. So like, even though that I fell off, and it was like a little bit awkward fall, I screamed. I passed the timers because clearly no one else saw that. She still won that entire class. I had like 20 something people.
Won. Oh my
gosh, it was
gosh,
awesome.
so cool. How much fun! How
cool
cute!
Moment. It was actually pretty funny. People were like laughing in the stands. Like I got a bunch of pictures of me running back with like my fist in the air, like like,
how cute! Like, that's what I was hoping you got pictures of that because it sounds like it was so much fun. So
it did. I did. I got a bunch of pictures from it, and I was like, "What the heck am I doing?"
You're winning.
The
You're
thrill
winning.
of victory.
Yeah.
The thrill of victory. Right there, you go.
Exactly.
So cute.
Well, what a
Thank
great way to end
Yes.
this episode. So we hope you enjoyed listening to our podcast and encourage you to share with all your equestrian family and friends. You can tune into the Late Night Riders podcast show every Friday night. Each episode will be uploaded exclusively on YouTube, where you can subscribe to our channel to stay up to date with all of our latest shows. Do you have a topic you'd like us to discuss? We want to hear from you. You may email us at podcast@ramfence.com or feel free to leave a comment below. Thank you again for listening.